Welcome to the Content 10X Podcast, the show where content creators learn how to harness the power of content repurposing. And now, your host, Amy Woods.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Content 10X Podcast. I'm your host, Amy Woods, and this week we're talking all about Instagram, and I have a wonderful guest on the show. So my guest is Sue B. Zimmerman. Sue B. is an insightful, energetic, and in-demand online marketing educator, influencer, speaker, and no BS coach. We met recently at Youpreneur Summit when we both spoke on the stage at Chris Ducker's fantastic event. And Sue spoke about her specialist area, Instagram, and it was absolutely fantastic. So Sue, thank you for coming on the show. It's really great to have you here.
Yeah, it's great to be talking with you again. And that was like, 3 weeks ago, a month ago?
Yeah. You know what? I feel like it was 3 weeks ago, but it was probably about 8 weeks ago. Time was just flying, isn't it? How did you find London? How did you find Youpreneur Summit?
Oh, Chris and I go way back.
Yeah.
I met Chris here in New England, Maine, when he spoke at an event called Agents of Change, which I then spoke at the following year. And I had my hashtag signs. I saw Chris Ducker. I knew who he was. I had his book all about virtual assistants, and I was excited to see him. It's something about your accent, you guys, from the UK that's just like melts when I listen to it. So Chris, being as outgoing as I am and as fun and just willing to take any kind of photo, we just hit it off. And then he had me on his podcast, and then he had me speak in Cebu when he did Youpreneur in the Philippines. And then he just asked me back to the UK.
Oh, I didn't realize that you went out to Tropical Think Tank as well. So yeah, I've always heard fantastic things about that event out in the Philippines. It's a shame he's not doing it anymore, isn't it?
Oh gosh, that was the furthest I've ever traveled to speak. And I brought my husband with me on that trip because on the way back, we stopped in Hong Kong and stayed for a week. And so it was such a lovely event, amazing community, beautiful destination. And it was, like I said, the longest travel I've ever done, but it was fun.
It's like, when you travel far for destination weddings, it was like a destination event, wasn't it? Like going to this tropical place, but people who traveled from all over the world for it. And yeah, it's a shame he doesn't do it. But London was still good though, wasn't it? It's a great place to put on such a fantastic event. And as I said, I heard such great feedback from your talk. I mean, it was so good. And then I heard so many people saying that they'd learned so much and kind of really eager to go off and implement everything that you spoke about with Instagram. And so I just couldn't wait to bring you on to the podcast to share lots of tips and advice to everybody who is listening. So I guess that everybody who tends to listen to this show are really interested in how they can maximize the return from the time and effort that they put into their content, and how they can make sure that they are getting their message out there in lots of different, locations and formats. And so most of us, we are creating a long form content, so maybe videos, podcasts, blog posts, live streams perhaps, and then going all in on long form content, and then how can we get the message of it and the content within it onto other platforms. And Instagram, obviously, such a powerful platform. It's my favorite social media platform. And firstly, I wanted to ask you actually, why did you decide to focus all in on Instagram?
I am that entrepreneur who is a visual learner and thinker, and I connect so much faster to that emotional pull into just content. So when I had my store on Cape Cod in Massachusetts, I was using a lot of different social media platforms. And then I discovered the power of Instagram, and my sales grew tremendously because I was using strategies around hashtags and geolocations 7 years ago. And then I decided to teach other business owners how to have the same kind of success using tactics and strategies that really build your business awareness authentically and help you, grow your authority and create community. That's kind of my niche way that I teach Instagram marketing. But I love what you said about content, creating it and then repurposing it in a smart way, because I am and have always been that entrepreneur that likes to work smarter and not harder. And with Instagram, it's so easy to use it now in the 4 neighborhoods. So whether it's the feed or stories or IGTV or live, you can amplify, promote, and broadcast the content that you spent a lot of time creating. So whether it's a podcast interview like this, or a long blog post, or for me, it starts on YouTube as a YouTube video, and we repurpose, and I'm excited to teach your audience how to do that.
Oh, absolutely. And I think as Instagram has grown and it's gone from the post to having all the features that you said, and I love this said the neighborhoods, that's such a great way of explaining it. That was brilliant. But stories live, IGTV. So let's break it down, because I'd love to talk about those 4 neighborhoods. That's the best phrase I've heard for Instagram. Because it's just so like that.
So I thought the analogy to neighborhoods everyone can relate to, because everyone lives somewhere and everyone has a certain neighborhood that they like to hang out in. And so the same is true for Instagram. So think of Instagram as a village, and there's now all these different neighborhoods where people are consuming their time. And some people just hang out in stories, and some people like to tune into live broadcast, and some people love watching the long form IGTV, and some people like to scroll through a feed, which I like to say is essentially a digital magazine, really. The promise that you make in your bio is like the cover of a magazine, and your feed is like the pages of that magazine, the promise that you made. And if there is a disconnect from the content that you're sharing in your feed to the promise that you made in your bio, you're going to lose trust. You're not going to attract your paying customers or gain new followers. So it's so important to really be aware of not only the messaging, the copy, the words, but the visuals of the branding and where you show up in each neighborhood. Is it consistent to that promise that you're making in the bio? Because if it's not, people will mute your stories, because you can mute any story by just simply holding down on the avatar and turning it gray. And if you guys didn't know that, you're going to be like, thank you, Sue B. Because some people like following feeds and they're like, oh my gosh, this person is not who I thought I followed. So it's just so important to be succinct and on brand. And you and I both know from the event we just spoke at, that was a reoccurring theme throughout all of the speakers, is to be on brand, to be you, to be authentic, and to get your messaging across in a very consistent way.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. People need to know who you are, what your message is, don't they? And what they would go to you for as well if we're on the social media platforms for business. Instagram stories is my favorite neighborhood. I like to hang out there the most. And I remember, I love to hear what you think about this, because I'm sure I heard Michael Stelzner say at the opening keynote on, I think it was not this year's Social Media Marketing World, but 2018, he said that people spend 80% of their time in Instagram stories versus looking at content in the grid, in the feed. What is that? Is that similar to your understanding as well?
Yeah. So last year, his opening keynote was absolutely all about focusing on Instagram. In the previous year, he did talk about Instagram stories, like you said. In fact, for the last 2 years, I've spoken about Instagram stories. And this year, 2020, I'm going to do the same. And it's my 7th year talking about Instagram at this amazing event. And there's 500 million daily Instagram stories curated. And so there's so many mistakes that I see people making that we can talk about if you want. And then there's just this really great opportunity to connect deeper with your audience using tactics like, the geolocation sticker, the hashtag sticker, the engagement stickers. And to all of your listeners, I have a YouTube channel, SueBZimmerman.com/YouTube, and there's over 350 videos. And I would say my last 20 have a lot to do with Instagram stories and the engagement that you can really heighten from using it strategically.
I'll make sure that I link to that because that sounds extremely useful for everybody. So what would you say are your main tips for, let's say you have a weekly podcast, let's say you have a podcast just like this. What would you recommend would be Instagram strategies in stories for the promoting and, repurposing of the podcast content?
So we do this. I'm going to use the example that we do for our YouTube. So if you're a podcaster, just simply take what I'm saying, take notes, and understand the process and the strategy around it. So we are committed. And when I say we, I have a team of 10. It's not just me. And so as a team, we've decided to go all in on our YouTube content for the main reason that YouTube's owned by Google. And when people search keywords like Instagram education, Instagram speaker, Instagram expert, I come up very quickly. And so I've been asked to speak at events. I've had brand partnerships, sponsorships, people finding me, paying coaching clients from simply searching on Google. So YouTube has more power than Subi Zimmerman's blog, although everything we do on YouTube is repurposed to our website, our home. It's so important to do that. But we create content consistently every single Monday. We drop a new YouTube video. And from that YouTube video, we also create a trailer that you will see in my feed. So if you look, it's very consistently on brand every Monday. And that trailer teases people to get them to go to YouTube. So we want all the engagement on YouTube. You get a good 24 hours on YouTube to get the juices going. You want people to watch through to the end. You want them to thumbs up the video and comment on YouTube. So my goal every Monday is to really focus on bringing attention and eyes and conversation to that video. I'm always teaching typically under 5 minutes on that YouTube video because time is money and we know that people have limited time, and we've discovered that under 5 minutes is our sweet spot on YouTube. So, market research to pay attention to what people are saying and the actions that they're taking. And we've been doing this consistently for years. So from that YouTube video, there's the post in the feed. And then throughout the day, before 3 p.m. EST, I talk about that video and what's in it for the listener. So I have a certain branded saying, happy Monday, happy Instagrammers. Every Monday, people know that they're going to expect a video, and they wait for it. They love it. They tell me that they can't wait for Monday. And so on Monday, that is my story. My storyline is all about bringing attention and eyeballs to that YouTube video, to that post in my feed. And then when I get close to 3 p.m. EST, I'll start talking about my live. So I have a branded hashtag Subi Live. I even have a GIF. If any of you search SBZ or Subi in the GIFs in stories, you'll see all of my graphic GIFs that are really fun. Again, being on brand and being consistent and standing out. So I will talk about the guests that I'm going to be bringing onto my live broadcast if I have any, and I'll let people know that I'm going live. I'll remind them because a lot of people like you stay in stories and watch stories, and they don't necessarily always see my feed posts. So it's important to echo and talk about what is important and relevant in your feed post that lives on forever in your story. So I will do that and then drive traffic to the live. Now, when I'm in the neighborhood, the live, Instagram live, I will be live broadcasting at 3 p.m. EST every Monday. I do take holidays off, and, we do take a break, guys. It's not like literally, but you can look for that. And then I get on that live broadcast. Typically it's 30 to 45 minutes. I have guests. I talk about strategies, tactics, why I did that YouTube video, what's in it for you. And I always, always, always teach something at the end that I've never taught anywhere else. It's usually a ninja tip or a tactic, and people are like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you told me this. And if you don't watch my live, you don't hear it. And if you don't tune into the replay, it goes away in 24 hours. So I really create community and bring people on that live broadcast, typically getting 300 people on live and then hundreds more through that replay period, sometimes up to 1,000, depending on my guest, because I encourage my guests to share the live when we're live. Why? Because if they share to their followers, I get more eyeballs on the live, I get more followers, I get more people seeing my content. And Amy, you probably would agree with this, but it is our job as the content creator to tell people what we want them to do. It's not their job to figure it out. So I'm constantly, I say I'm like that bossy Boston chick because I kind of am bossy, but it's in a loving way because I want people to take action knowing that it's in their best interest. There's no ego here. This is what you need to do if you want to have results on Instagram. And that's how I teach it in all 4 neighborhoods.
And when you have the YouTube video, and you repurpose it over into firstly the feed, into the grid, into your post, do you take a less than 1 minute clip from it and put it into square format and do all of that reformatting of the video?
So we take that video, and I have a copywriter that literally creates our blog that lives on our website. We also tweet about it, post about it in our Facebook group for more engagement. I have a VIP Facebook group for my Ready, Set, Graham program. So we make sure that all the community members are in the know. But I think the most brilliant thing that I've started doing, 2 things, Amy, I want to tell your listeners. If anybody listening has a YouTube channel, the best thing that I've done, and this advice came from Amy Landino, who is a YouTube rock star, and she just wrote a new book all about productivity. She spoke at Upreneur last year. Do you know Amy?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. She told me, Sue, you're hysterical. Keep your bloopers in. People will watch your videos just to watch your bloopers. And so all of my bloopers, because I am so not perfect, people, my videos are edited really well, but there are a lot of bloopers. So people are like, oh my God, your bloopers are hysterical. So this is how I get my watch time. That's number 1. Number 2 is I came up with this great way to celebrate other people, because I believe the more you shine the light on others, the more the light shines on you. I said this at Upreneur. It was my last, before I left the stage. I truly believe this. And so what I encourage every single person to do that watches my YouTube video, to leave a comment and mention their Instagram handle. Why? Because everyone else leaving comments will now be able to read your comment and know exactly what your Instagram account is and come over and find you, versus your Gmail account name that typically is not your Instagram handle. And also, I take screenshots of all the awesome comments, and we have a system internally where we really save and organize all of our testimonials for various reasons. And we use those screenshots in future YouTube videos, giving shout outs. I say the name of the person, their name of their Instagram account, and what they do. So it really encourages people to leave a comment and leave their Instagram handle. And so this is me being proactive at how can I get more comments? How can I get more juice? How can I get more eyeballs on this YouTube, which will be seen over and over and over again and live on the internet forever. And so this has been our strategy, Amy. Is there anything you just learned or heard that you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's such a great idea. And, it really encourages people to comment, doesn't it? And I love the fact that you give the shout outs, and people really appreciate that. And saving those testimonials, there's so many different ways. You should always screenshot the good comments and the positivity that's coming your way, shouldn't you? It's really important not to lose that. And the bloopers, it's a great thing to do. Do you keep the bloopers in? Do you save them and put them at the end like the movies do, where they show the bits that didn't make the film at the end? Or how do you keep them in to the video? So
my videographer edits all of them, and she puts them in. I have no idea which one she's adding. Sometimes I say, do not put that in there. But for the most part, she has the ability to do whatever she wants.
Oh, yeah. And you can share them as standalone as well. I've done a few podcast episodes on the concept of repurposing bloopers and, not casting mistakes aside, because, it just brings out the humor and shows transparency and authenticity of who you are and everything. So I'm a big fan of that. Now, with Instagram stories, you said that once you've repurposed the video and shared that on your site and you've created the blog post and everything like that, you'll be on stories talking about the the most recent video. Do you put snippets of the video, or is it always, just more back behind the scenes, raw content of you talking about the most recent YouTube video?
I'll take screen records of
Okay.
of the YouTube video and what was talked about on the live.
Yeah.
So if my guest says something really profound that's worth sharing in stories, I'll get a screen record like I did yesterday. So yesterday I did my live because it was Monday. I had on Max, who's a podcaster from Hippo Direct, and he talked about a previous episode that he interviewed me on. So what did I do? I screen recorded that and I linked his episode so that my listeners could easily listen to that by simply swiping up.
Yeah. And that's a great thing so when people have that feature as well. Not everyone has it straight away, do they? But when you do get that swipe up feature, it's a great call to action. It's one of the things that many people, if we don't have, we really wish that we did have this swipe up option. In Instagram stories, do you have tips for? There's loads of different engagement features, aren't there? So good. Ask me anything, rating sliders, polls, all that kind of thing. What do you see works well for engagement with those kinds of features? Do you have any tips for using them?
Yeah, so engagement stickers in my mind are really the gold in Instagram stories if they're used correctly. A lot of people tell me they don't get engagement. No one does their poll. No one does their ask a question or use the slider. And it's because of the way that you're asking people to engage. You've got to get really specific with what you want them to do, and you got to make it easy for them to want to ask a question. It cannot be too general. So when you do get questions and asked and people taking your poll, those are your warm leads. People are literally stopping in their tap forward to engage. They like what you're saying, what you're doing, what you're sharing, and they are interested. So it's your job as the content creator to go over and check them out. Is this someone that you are trying to attract? Start a conversation. I believe that conversations lead to opportunities and opportunities lead to conversions. And you need to be proactive here, not just, do it and do nothing with that information and those connections.
Yeah. I completely agree. And what advice do you give people who want to start making more use of hashtags within, let's start with stories. Do you have any tips and advice on hashtag strategies for Instagram stories?
Well, you can use 11 hashtags in your stories, and you should go broad in stories. You should not be going niche, which is the complete opposite of what I teach in the feed, because stories, if you want it to get picked up in a story reel, it needs to be more broad. So broad for me is Boston businesswoman. Broad for me is lady boss or women empowerment, women who lead, not necessarily, a local hashtag or something niche and small, because it won't get picked up by the stories. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, that makes complete sense. Do you find that people do follow hashtag stories?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I have people that come up to me that say, I found you from searching Boston, from following Boston. I'm moving to Boston and I found you and you're funny and I love following you and you know so much. I have conversations from people who have found me from the hashtag Boston or the geolocation.
Yeah, I notice a difference if I don't put hashtags, and if I do, which shows, clearly people were following hashtag stories, because there's always quite a big difference between using them and not using them. Now, you said that it completely makes sense what you said about going really broad with hashtags in stories, but that's the opposite advice you would give for the feed. So do you advise purely niche hashtags in the feed, or more of a mixture? What's the strategy, the best strategy for that?
In the feed?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really important to get very niche with hashtags. I can give you my partner affiliate link to an amazing company in the UK who we've partnered with, and we talk about in our Ready, Set, Gram Pro Instagram course, and it literally helps you go niche, and teaches you the best strategies to find the best hashtags for your industry.
Oh, is it a tool that you can use for hashtags?
Yes, it's a tool, and there's a 7-day free free trial that I'm going to send you.
Oh, yeah, please. And what did you say it was called?
It's called Flick.
Flick. Oh, okay. Yeah, we've kind of experimented a little bit with Flick. So yeah, that would be great. We didn't really go all in at the time. We were just kind of playing around with it a bit. So we were playing around with other tools as well. But yeah, so your recommendation really is to, if you can, use a tool like Flick in order to do off Instagram hashtag research and then bring the research findings over for when you're posting.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. If you're just going to do initial research within Instagram itself without using a tool, is your recommendation really just, to look at the hashtags other people are using and just go down various rabbit holes and then look at
no rabbit holes. I don't like rabbit holes. I say, find hashtags that are relevant to your business and look at the content in that hashtag hub. And if it doesn't look good, like if you do social media, that looks like throw up because there's hamburgers and Nike sneakers. People tend to crash tag hashtags that are popular. So stay away from the popular hashtags or you just will never get seen by the right people.
Yeah, like we always say that if it has over 1 million, we kind of avoid it. Is that good strategy or should it be?
It really depends on your business and how many followers you have and where you are positioned.
Okay.
I have a lot of YouTube videos. If you want to search my name with hashtag, there's like 4 or 5 that I've done that I think your listeners will love listening to with beginner strategies and some more advanced ones.
Brilliant. Okay. I shall put links to those in our show notes as well. That sounds fantastic. And something that we haven't spoken about, so moving away from hashtags, we've talked a little bit about stories, which has been great, and the posts. What about IGTV? Are you posting the YouTube video over there onto IGTV?
No, I'm not. I want people on YouTube. And so my IGTV strategy is to have completely different content on IGTV than anywhere else. And a lot of this is me as a successful business owner and some of my just methodologies and philosophies and just core values so that people get to feel more intimately connected with me. And, I have a channel with a lot of videos that you can really learn from. I mean, so many. My IGTV videos are all transcribed so that, the biggest mistake people make with their videos is that 80% of people don't even listen because they can't. They're in a public place. So you need to have transcriptions on them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We always say that, especially, if you're putting them onto social in particular, then you have to get the captions on, the subtitles on, don't you? With IGTV, it's really interesting you said, well, no, because I want people to watch the YouTube video. So obviously when they first started IGTV, it was vertical only format. And then I know last year they did make it possible for you to put horizontal landscape videos into IGTV as well. And there was a lot of, I guess people were saying, well, it's going to become flooded now with YouTube videos that people will just repurpose because suddenly, without having to do a lot of editing and rework in order to put them into vertical format, they'll go over there. And I know IGTV going into the vertical platform space, so it's because they really wanted to encourage native video, isn't it? Like more immersive video and more native, because it wasn't possible to just, well, it was, but you had to put a bit more work in to slam a YouTube video over there. Is that really your recommendation for most people, that you should try and create more native IGTV specific content as opposed to repurposing a YouTube video?
I definitely think native. I'm actually in 2020, we're upping our IGTV strategy. We're going to make it a little bit more polished with editing and B-roll and a little bit more stylized than it currently is.
Yeah, and I think we're going to try and do a bit more on IGTV. And the change that I loved in the last year has been that ability to post that video to IGTV and select that the first, it was a minute, but now it's increased beyond a minute, isn't it? You can see it 2 minutes now, but the first section of the video will show as a post, an Instagram post, won't it? And then when that gets to a certain point, you have to click to jump over to IGTV to see the rest of it. I think that's really driven, more people over to IGTV, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, anyone without 10,000 followers can link in their story to their IGTV. So it's a great opportunity for anyone. Yeah.
So you can link in your story, or you can do the post and then show it as a minute or so down. So either way, they're just finding more ways to make it less stuck on an island and actually build a few more bridges over to it, basically, so that more people will go over there. But I do think there are, and I think if people don't have a particularly big YouTube presence and are trying to decide whether to start on YouTube or start on IGTV, do you think some people
it's easier to start on IGTV for sure.
Yeah.
A YouTube commitment is a huge commitment. And if you don't have the capacity or bandwidth to stay consistent and do the work, it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, it is. YouTube is the longer term benefits, as you said, and they're related to search features with Google and everything like that. But you have to be in it for the long term to get the long term benefits, don't you, as well? There's so much that we could talk about, but I'm sure we could talk for hours because you know so much about Instagram, and I love to find out about Instagram, but we can't talk for hours. So I'll finish 2 final questions.
Yes.
If somebody who is just starting out on their Instagram journey, what one tip would you give for just starting to grow that audience on Instagram? One thing that they could focus on?
I would focus on market research and not getting caught up in a theme or what am I going to do? Like really researching hashtags, researching your industry, see what everyone else is doing, and think about how you can stand apart from everyone else who does what you do, and then come up with a strategy and then start posting.
Yeah, absolutely love that. Thank you. And the final question. So it's so funny to say, well, where should people go to find out more? Because, of course, Instagram. But is there any, apart from following you on Instagram and following you, obviously, we've talked extensively about YouTube. Is there anywhere in particular you would like to direct people aside from those?
Yeah. So what I like to do on my interviews on these podcasts is I want to meet each and every one of you tuning into this, which is great. I would love for you to come over to Instagram at the Instagram expert and just comment on any of my posts, and mention Amy, her Instagram account. Amy, it's content 10x, right?
It is. Yep.
Yeah. And let us know what was your biggest takeaway, or if you have a question, you can ask me in the DM. I would love to connect with each one of you. Those who are action takers do this, and it's how we all build community and how we make the world a happier place and more connected.
I absolutely love it. Thank you, Sue. That's fantastic. So please do that. I really recommend everyone does that. It's been brilliant talking to you. Thank you so much. And I will put lots of links in the show notes and remind everyone of some of these important points as well. So thank you so much, Sue, for coming on. I really do appreciate it.
You are so welcome. It was my pleasure.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that discussion. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoy the show, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe if you haven't already, and even leave a review. That would be really appreciated as well. Now, to let you know, my new book, Content 10x, More Content, Less Time, Maximum Results, is now available to purchase. You can get that over on Amazon, or if you head to content10x.com/book. I'm getting loads of really great reviews coming in from the book already, so thanks so much to those of you who have already purchased it and left reviews. It really is the ultimate guide to content repurposing, and you can discover all sorts of tips and tricks for how to repurpose pretty much any type of content in the book. If you're interested in our fully end-to-end content repurposing service, then head on over to content10x.com as well, where you can find out lots about that. And also give me a follow over on social media. I'm at content10x on all of the social media platforms. So again, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode, and I'll catch you in the next one.